I'm going to briefly look at the considerations for costume design. And these are the things that the designer has to think about. Please remember that considerations are different to practicalities, and we'll come to that later. So when we design, we have to consider some things. What do we have to think about? What do we want to communicate on stage? Remembering that that's one of the most forgotten things about a costume design. We can subtly communicate things about a character, or not so subtly. We can manipulate how people feel about a character purely by their appearance. So, what do we have to think about? We have to think about the character. We have to think about the story or the storyline. We've got to think about the emotion that we want to portray, the time period, the function of the character, and the concept of the piece or the brief. So those 6 things. So let's have a look at these pictures. Now, for all intents and purposes, they are all queens. Now, what events are these clothes for? What does the clothing tell us about their character, their status? What's their job? What's the time period? What's the function of their clothing? So keep those things in mind. So what are they for? The first one, Queen Elizabeth in her coronation robes. The next one, Queen Elizabeth again, Queen Victoria, but this time not in coronation robes. And then we have the coronation picture of the Queen Elizabeth, the present Queen. So have a look at what we can see with these characterizations. They're all very different. They all show us something quite different about the character. Why has Queen Victoria got so much skin showing? Why is Queen Elizabeth's face so white? Why does Queen Elizabeth have her hand on the side? Why is there more focus on the background? Why have we got her full extent in hers? So let's look at the first one in particular. What's the character? She's a queen. What's the story that's being told? She's in her coronation, so she's going to have her crown put on her head. She's being made the figurehead of the country. What emotion do you feel? Do you feel that she is accessible? Do you feel that she's strong and powerful? What do you feel about her? Is the time period clear? What's the function of this costume? This is to show her as being strong and powerful and the leader of the realm. Do you think it's effective in that way? And what's the concept or idea that's being communicated? Do you see her as being all powerful? Do you see her as being the focus of everything? Do you see her as a woman? Or do you see her as a figurehead? What's that idea? And what elements of the design do you see? Do you see the size? The size is really important. You can see how she takes up all of the space and how she has a very, very fine waist, but then it pops out the skirt underneath, or the huge cape that's around her. How about the line? Are you seeing the line and the shape? She's not looking like a voluptuous woman by any extent. You're not seeing the shape of the woman. What does that mean? How about the use of colour? What does the colour show us? How about all those uses of the golds and the really beautiful brocade and the texture that's coming through there? What is this telling us about this person? It's telling us that she's rich. It's telling us that she's omnipotent. And value. Value is really interesting because what is the brightest area of this? Her face. Her face is as white, so it talks about purity. She was known as the Virgin Queen, so it's all about purity, and you get pulled straight to that use of the face. How about the shape, the shapes that we have? She takes up the whole room. All of these design elements become very important. Let's take them back to the other two. So now you've analysed the first one. I want you to pause this. Think about what the second one's trying to tell us. She's less like a leader. She's more like a woman or a mother of kings, Look at the difference between the choice of the crown and the flowers on her head. So start thinking about what the differences we are seeing. Show us what we are manipulated to see.